Hi, this is Elise Arsenault, working actor, career coach, and founder of The Global Actor. This week, I introduce you to John Kramer. John and I first met several years ago while we were both taking an improv workshop with the late Gary Austin, founder of The Groundlings. John Thomas Kramer is an American actor and writer based in New York City. John grew up in Ohio, a born and bred Midwesterner. After graduating from DePaul University with a BA in writing, he moved to Portland, Oregon, where he earned an MAT in teaching English. From there, he relocated to Baltimore, Maryland, where he taught middle and high school and coached football and wrestling. It was while teaching that John learned he loved to act. Every day, 5 times a day, he acted like he knew what he was talking about. This discovery led him to study with Bob Krakauer, Terry Schreiber, Nikki Flax, Carol Fox Prescott, Gary Austin, and at the Upright Citizens Brigade. John has now appeared on TV in shows such as House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, The Leftovers, Law and Order SVU, and Blue Bloods. He can also be seen in film and web series, including a series regular role in He's With Me, which earned him 2 Independent Series Award nominations for Best Supporting Actor in Comedy. Here's John Kramer.
I would love to start with just, would you mind just sharing your story of how you ended up in New York as an actor, and where were you coming from, and how long you've been here?
Great. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I've told this story to you before. I'm not sure I can do a good job of the short version, but I was working as a teacher in Baltimore. I had acted a little bit in school, high school, a little bit in college, but never thought of it as something real, just fun. And working as a teacher in Baltimore, I had a friend that mentioned voiceover, which I honestly had never even really thought of before. He worked in advertising in New York. And so I found a class down in DC, spent a lot of time down there, and loved it. And as I looked for voiceover gigs, which, by the way, back then, I had no idea what I was doing. I was looking for jobs on Craigslist and finding things like local commercials, training videos, community theater, and not as much voiceover. And so just thought, why not? I'll check out some of these other things, some of these other opportunities. And just as luck would have it, we thought we were leaving Baltimore. So I quit my job as the teacher. I resigned my position with the school district I was teaching in. But my wife ended up getting a job in Baltimore. So we stayed in Baltimore, but instead of going back to teach full time, I was now looking for different types of jobs. And really, I think the first general meeting I had with a casting director in Baltimore, they were casting for a training video. And they said, I know you're here for a general, but you look like you might be good for this thing that we're casting for. Would you mind doing a cold read? And I did, and I booked it. It was a training video for a Secret Service HR video.
Awesome.
And since then I had done, a ton of training videos, mostly industrial type videos, some local commercial things, and some voiceovers, but a lot for the federal government. Living in Baltimore, who knew was a great place to get your start as an actor. Baltimore, DC is like the 3rd largest market behind New York and LA.
I totally recommend it.
In the right place at the right time. So, of course, you go to D.C. and they say you should go to Philly. That's where the real money is. And so I found myself driving up to Philadelphia, and they, of course, say the real money is in New York. So now I'm driving up to New York and bolt bus and train from Baltimore, and you start meeting people. I think I was reading a lot about the business at that point, too. I had taken a class, another acting class, in the Baltimore area, which was actually really a great class. And they were good. Those teachers were good about kind of setting me up for my next move. If I do go to New York, here's kind of who to talk to, or here are the right books to read. And one of the books that I read, and I forgot, I was going to go run down and look on my bookshelf. Maybe you can put it in the notes afterwards.
We'll add it after, yeah.
It was a great business of acting book. And I was up in New York one of these trips, and I saw him advertising at the Drama Bookshop for a consultation. So I got to find his name because he really helped. And he told me some names of agents and managers to get in touch with. And once I did that, I started to go out pretty regularly. And I think I had done some commercial stuff at this point in the Baltimore, DC area. So I did have some clips to show people in New York. But once I started going out in New York and booking up here commercially, voiceover wise, it really the ball started to roll at that point.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just found myself in a new world.
That's great. So I'm hearing that you happen to be putting yourself in these situations where you were meeting people and you were open to what they were like the resources they were giving you, and you just kept getting more and more knowledge, and it kept leading to the next thing. Is that right?
Well, it's funny, as a teacher, your number one kind of goal is to create lifelong learners. That's the number one goal. I'm a social studies teacher. It's not to teach social studies. It's to help engender a desire to learn. And I'm lucky I've always had that desire, and very little pretension. I feel like I still meet actors who are very set on what they want to do. And I think having a goal is great, but I think having flexibility is important too, and being open to a new path or a new idea. It might not be exactly what it was that you set out to do originally, but my perspective has always been, I'll do anything just about as long as I learn or grow in some way. I mean, I think I've really had kind of the criteria where if I'm working with somebody that I've wanted to work with who will help me grow, obviously making money has always been important. I had my first child right around the time that I made this transition. Wow. So it was a little fraught. It was not quite as and it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy to tell your parents that you want to be an actor when you grow up, and they think, why don't you become a doctor or a lawyer? Yeah. But telling your wife and kids you want to be an actor is tougher. So,
yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah. I think people don't even think that that's an option. So that's what I think, that I find that so inspiring, that here you are expecting your first child, and hey, we're doing this. This dream is happening.
I mean, a lot had to kind of come together for this to happen in the beginning. And one of the biggest factors was a wife who was understanding enough to say, sure, you can quit your job in your mid-30s and become an actor. Why not? So I've been lucky in a lot of ways. But I think some of the things that an actor can control, one of the most important is being open to opportunities, collaborations, things that you might not have had your mind or heart set on originally, but you have to be flexible and open to possibilities that present themselves that you didn't plan on.
Great. That's great. I'm going to switch gears, and I want to jump into talking about CoStar roles and guest star roles. And how did you book your first CoStar role for TV?
Right. So I believe that I had at this point convinced my wife to actually relocate to the New York area from Baltimore. Things were going well enough. I'm not sure if this is quite the right timeline, but I'm now at this point going to workshops to meet casting directors. And I'm not sure if I'm being careful at this point or not. There was a point where I would just meet anybody that I could, but I had gotten to the point, I believe, by the time that I met Julie Schubert, who was casting House of Cards and who still casts House of Cards, at a casting director workshop. And there's always going to be something special about Julie Schubert, and having worked with her and booked my first TV co-star through her. She did go the extra mile. I, in addition to going to these workshops, was volunteering at one of them, the network. So I was a monitor. I would sign people in and be a reader at some of these workshops. So Julie's office was in the same space as the network at this point. I had met her at another workshop and called the Stand Up Showcase, which I love. And the people that run the Stand Up Showcase, I love them.
Great.
Met Julie, and mentioned that I was a local hire in Baltimore, which I knew was where House of Cards filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Still had plenty of friends and family that I could go stay with down there. And when I went to the network, I think I went to audition. It was at the same space as the network. I had to go monitor from one of the workshops there. I walked into the office to audition. I walked out to monitor. Julie was stuck on the train, so I auditioned with somebody else, one of her assistants. And she came in. I'm about to go into my workshop. She goes into her office. She comes out a minute later and she says, John, are you busy right now, or can I call you back in to just read one more time? What you did was great, but I think it could be a little bit better. And I said, let me just see if I can get somebody to cover for me. And I ran into the office over at the network. They've got somebody to watch the door for a minute while I went in and read again with Julie, and I booked it. And again, I can't thank her enough for taking that extra minute to, pull me back in. And so that was a special experience to have for your first co-star.
That is so great. So I'm hearing, first of all, CD workshops work, and also volunteering to be a reader and just being in the similar environment to where the casting directors are coming in and out of. Just, did that make you feel like you were a part of it rather than just an actor coming in?
Well, there's no question that being involved in some way, besides being an actor in this business, is helpful. Again, you're learning, you're meeting people. Those things are absolutely critical. If you have the ability to intern or work in a casting office or in an agency, you get to witness the inside workings firsthand. That's just invaluable.